Violence in the media in regards to video games and its effects on youth has been a topic of discussion over the last few decades. Chris Owen, a Mohawk College instructor on comic book history, gave his thoughts on this subject.
The funny thing is, really, it shouldn't influence violence in youth, because video games should have, people who are of the right age should be playing the appropriate games for that particular age group. However, unfortunately, sometimes that isn't always the case. Sometimes parents let their kids play games that are not the right age range and things like that. So it really shouldn't influence violence, but unfortunately the reality is that it does. Violence in the news especially, they show all kinds of gruesome ideas, and a lot of times the news is a very depressing place to be. Like when you're watching the news broadcasts, they'll talk about wars, and you'll see graphic portrayals of bodies being taken away and things like that. However, I don't necessarily know if I'd want to have my 8-year-old watching that either. There's certainly violence in hockey, with sporting events, and there's going to be fist fights. But at the same time, with hockey, there's a certain amount of competitiveness and a certain amount of there's somewhat of a moral conduct, and you don't always see somebody in hockey taking a gun out and blowing their brains out like they would in Call of Duty. So there's a certain limits to those kind of other media than there is in video games.
Think about what you have to lose.
The rating systems that occurred in movies years ago, when that started, that allowed to have a wider range of movies available after the Hays Code, and now we have a wider range of games available because we have rating systems. Just like parents need to be controlling to a certain extent what kids and teenagers watch on the internet, they need to be curtailing that as far as video games and movies and all that kind of stuff.
Meanwhile, students here at Mohawk College are divided in their opinions on this topic.
I think when it comes to video games and violence in today's youth, I think there is definitely a correlation between the two of them. When I look at kids, my age, we didn't play a lot of video games, and a lot of it was non-violence oriented games. And I see a lot of video games that are meant for young people, young teens, 12, 13. It is a lot of violence and fighting or carjacking, and maybe we don't see that prevalent in today's society, but violence has increased throughout the young people, and I think you could say that both of them correlate to each other.
Fucking shit! Cut!
I think it pretty much all depends on who's playing the game, but for the most part, no, not really. I think most kids nowadays are aware that it's just a video game, and I don't think they could really take that in much further,
If youth is quote-unquote normal, doesn't have any medical problems, then no, I think they can look at it and discern that it's a form of entertainment. I mean, it's just like violent movies or scary movies. They've always been around. But if a child has learning disabilities, ADHD, that type of thing, if there's some problem like Asperger's syndrome, autism, Tourette's, anything like that to do with the brain, then yes, I feel that definitely there's an impact.
You really can't prove that video games cause violence. There is no definitive connection, and the most common answer people use as justification for thinking that is the case is people who often commit violent acts using video games as an inspiration. But what we forget is that these sources of inspiration are put forth by diseased minds. We can't really treat them, we can't really assume that their inspiration is really the cause of it. I don't think video games do cause real-world violence in youth or in any age.
The issue of violence in the media regarding video games and its effects on youth has triggered many opinions on this subject. On behalf of Dexter Ruda and Dylan Cardoni, this is Jerry Lynn reporting from Hamilton's Mohawk College for this second-year course on TV Law and Ethics.